e4. This is one of the best ways to begin what is a race and a struggle. A race to get the pieces out rapidly and onto squares where they can operate most efficiently, a struggle to gain control of the center. At one stroke the e-pawn takes up an important square in the center and attacks 2 others, while the queen and bishop control 8 more squares. e6. This quietly aggressive move prepares to dispute white's center by 2. d5. This defense has the merit of avoiding the many strong openings white can play after the customary e5 reply. d4. Of a similar move, Philidor in his Chess Analyzed, 1791, says, this pawn is played 2 moves for 2 very important reasons. The first is, to hinder your adversary's king's bishop to play upon your king's bishop's pawn, and the second, to put the strength of your pawns in the middle of the exchequer, which is of great consequence to attain the making of a queen. We may still follow the advice. d5. An attack on the e-pawn which immediately challenges the center. Knight c3. Of the various courses open to white, advancing the e-pawn to e5, exchanging pawns, sacrificing his center pawn or protecting it, he takes that which enables him to develop a piece and maintain the pressure. D takes, e4. Temporarily allowing white more freedom of action, but black hopes to play c5 later and destroy the troublesome d-pawn. Knight takes, e4. The recapture leaves white with a slight edge in his centralized knight and pawn position. Knight d7. Preparing a support for the g8, knight's development at f6. If white then exchanges knights, black can recapture with the d7 knight. If he played instead 4. Knight f6. Then comes 5. Knight takes f6 check. And black must either break up his kingside pawns by 5. G takes f6. Or capture with the queen and risk its being bothered by the minor pieces. A sample of what could happen. After 4. Knight f6. 5. Knight takes f6 check. Queen takes f6. Is this little trap? 6. Knight f3. Bishop d7. To seize the long diagonal. 7. Bishop d3. Bishop c6. 8. Bishop g5. Bishop takes f3. 9. Queen d2. Queen takes d4. 10. Bishop b5 check. And white wins the enemy queen. Knight f3. The best possible way to put the king's knight to work, by developing it at f3, where it has enormous influence on the center, and where it stands peerless in defense of the castled king. Bishop e7. A non-committal developing move, it brings a piece off the back rank and helps the king castle quickly, but not so good as the conventional. 5. Knight g, f6. If black tries instead the fianchetto development of his c8 bishop, tempting in view of white's exposed knight, there is a pretty trap he can stumble into. 5. b6. 6. Bishop b5. Bishop b7. 7. Knight e5. Bishop takes, e4. Or 7. Bishop c8. 8. Bishop g5. Knight f6. 9. Knight c6. Winning the queen. 8. Bishop takes d7 check. King e7. 9. Bishop c6. And black must lose some material. Bishop d3. This is probably sharper than 6. Bishop c4. but either move places the bishop in a good spot and clears the first rank for kingside castling. Knight g, f6. Black too prepares to get his king into safety by developing, at long last, his g8 knight. Queen e2. White develops a piece and supports his central knight strongly with queen and bishop. This is more restraining on black's cramped position than. 7. Knight takes f6 check. Bishop takes f6. When black can initiate an attack on white's center with c5. Castle kingside. The king seeks security in the corner. There was no easy freeing maneuver in. 7. Knight takes e4. 8. Bishop takes e4. Knight f6. Since. 9. Bishop takes b7. Bishop takes b7. 10. Queen b5 check. Followed by. 11. Queen takes b7. Wins a pawn for white. Castle kingside. White's castling is less to escape danger than to let the h1 rook take an active part in the game. White's position is so promising as to offer him a good attacking line in 8. Bishop g5. Knight takes e4. 9. Queen takes e4. g6. Certainly not. 9. Knight f6. To prevent mate, as. 10. Bishop takes f6. Wins on the spot. 10. h4. When white can castle on the queenside and storm the enemy bastions with his kingside pawns. Knight takes e4. Black exchanges to get some elbow room. Queen takes e4. Takes command of the board with a threat of mate. Offhand it looks risky to make this capture and leave the queen exposed to harassment by the minor pieces, but black is in no position, in either sense of the word, to make trouble. He has all he can do to stay alive. Knight f6. Naturally, black does not wish to advance one of the kingside pawns, for instance. 9. g6. Unless compelled to, but what's wrong with the move he plays? 9. Knight f6. Does it not bring the knight to its best square, guard against mate, beat off the queen, and free his own queenside? Indeed it does all these things, and under the circumstances it is probably black's best move. It is strange that a move made under duress often does not have the same positive effect as a move made of one's own volition. Queen h4. After this, black's knight, which to be sure stands on a good square, must remain on that square to guard against mate. b6. The c8 bishop, barred by black's very first move from coming out to the kingside, seeks other means to take part in the battle. Development at b7 looks attractive, as from there it commands the long diagonal. Bishop g5. Excellent strategy. White attacks the most important defensive piece, the knight that guards against mate. The specific threat is 12. Bishop takes f6. Bishop takes f6. 13. Queen takes h7 checkmate. A simple threat and easy to meet, all black has to do is play. 11. g6. Or 11. h6. What then is white aiming at? The hidden purpose is to force black to move one of the kingside pawns, to avoid being mated. A move by either of these pawns creates a looseness in the defensive structure that can never be repaired. It weakens the position organically as it makes a breach that can never be closed. The pawn that advances can never go back to its former position in the line of defensive pawns. g6. On the alternative, 11. h6. White wins by 12. Bishop takes f6. Bishop takes f6. 13. Queen e4. When the threat of mate wins the rook on a8, an innocent bystander. c4. A very good move. To begin with, it prevents black playing. 12. Knight d5. To remove by exchange white's attacking pieces. Offensively, it prepares an advance of the d4 pawn, which will break up black's pawn structure at e6. Once this is done, white's rook will have a point of entry on the e-file. Bishop b7. Black has no effective counterattack. The best he can do is to keep on developing pieces on the most favorable squares to make a hard fight of it. d5. Threatening, after the preparatory. 14. Rook a, d1. To take the e6 pawn so that the forced recapture by 15. F takes, e6. Deprives black's g-pawn of one of its props. E takes d5. This seems to win a pawn, as should white recapture by 14. C takes d5. The reply. 14. Knight takes d5. Not only holds on to the pawn but compels an exchange of bishops, taking the edge off white's attack. Rook f, e1. This unexpected Zwischenzug, in-between move, threatens immediate victory by 15. Rook takes, e7. Queen takes, e7. 16. Bishop takes f6. Queen d6. 17. Knight g5. h5. 18. Queen takes h5. G takes h5. 19. Bishop h7 checkmate. h6. Black offers a pawn to deflect one of the pieces bearing down so heavily on his f6, knight and e7, bishop. There was no relief in 14. King g7. To support the knight, as white responds with the brutal 15. Bishop h6 check. Winning the exchange. Queen takes h6. But not 15. Bishop takes h6. Which permits 15. Knight e4. Driving off white's queen. White now plans 16. Bishop takes g6. F takes g6. 17. Queen takes g6 check. King h8. 18. Knight d4. Threatening to win by 19. Knight e6. 19. Knight f5. Or 19. Rook e3. Followed by 20. Rook h3 check. 18. Queen e8. 19. Queen h6 check. King g8. 20. Knight f5. Rook f7. 21. Bishop takes f6. Winning easily. Knight g4. White has a neat win against the defense by 15. Knight e4. He plays 16. Bishop takes e7. Queen takes e7. 17. C takes d5. Threatening to capture the pinned e4 knight next. 17. Bishop takes d5. 18. Bishop takes e4. Bishop takes e4. 19. Rook takes e4. Queen takes e4. 20. Knight g5. When black must lose his queen or be mated. The text move is of course an attempt to chase the queen away. Queen h4. White supports the bishop, attacks the knight and threatens to win by 17. Bishop takes, e7. What more can be achieved by one move? Bishop takes g5. Returning the knight to f6 leads to catastrophe, viz. 16. Knight f6. 17. Rook takes, e7. Queen takes, e7. 18. Bishop takes f6. And white attacks black's queen while threatening. 19. Queen h8 checkmate. Knight takes g5. Once again the theme song, mate at h7. Knight f6. And black must dance to the tune, by bringing the knight back to f6. Here too black posts the knight on a good square, but not of his own free will. Queen h6. This restricts black more than would maneuvering the rook over to h3 by way of e3. For example, after 18. Rook e3. Rook e8. 19. Rook h3. King f8. The king escapes immediate disaster. After white's actual move. If black tries 18. Rook e8. He falls into 19. Bishop takes g6. Rook takes, e1 check. 20. Rook takes, e1. F takes g6. 21. Queen takes g6 check. King h8. 22. Knight f7 checkmate. d4. To prevent 19. Rook e3. And to give the bishop more play on the long diagonal. How does white continue the attack? Can he bring up the reserves without losing too much time? Or can he weaken the defensive formation and make it vulnerable to immediate assault? Is there a hint in the last question? Yes, indeed. Black's chief defense lies in his knight, which guards against the mate at h7, and the f-pawn supporting the all-important g-pawn. If only white could strike at these two defenders, threaten them, remove them, get them out of the way somehow. There is a move, the kind that looks absurd at first glance. Hint 2, a master player looks at every move he would like to make, especially the impossible ones. Rook e6. Threatening to capture the knight, and then mate with the queen. Rook e8. Had black played 19. F takes, e6. There would have followed 20. Queen takes g6 check. King h8. 21. Queen h6 check. King g8. 22. Bishop h7 check. King h8. 23. Bishop f5 check. King g8. 24. Bishop takes, e6 check. Rook f7. 25. Bishop takes f7 checkmate. It is interesting to note how the startling 19. Rook e6. Move not only threatens to take the knight but also exploits the fact that the f-pawn dare not capture the rook and abandon the defense of the g-pawn. Black's last move is intended to clear the f8 square for the king, if white should take the knight and then check at h7 with his queen. Bishop takes g6. Breaking through the pawn barrier. White's threat is 21. Bishop takes f7 checkmate. There is no defense. 1. 20. F takes, e6. 21. Bishop f7 checkmate. 2. 20. F takes g6. 21. Queen takes g6 check. King h8. 22. Knight f7 checkmate. 3. 20. Queen d7. 21. Bishop h7 check. Knight takes h7. Or. 21. King h8. 22. Queen takes f6 checkmate. 22. Queen takes h7 check. King f8. 23. Queen h8 checkmate.